Heartbreak transforms a woman in ways she never imagines. The moment her world shifts, a new path quietly begins forming beneath her feet, one lined not with bitterness, but with clarity, dignity, and extraordinary inner refinement. Emotional pain becomes a catalyst rather than a cage, guiding her toward a version of herself she once believed was only possible in her dreams. Rising after heartbreak does not require noise, performance, or dramatic displays of reinvention. Rising begins in the softness of her self-respect, in the elegance of her restraint, and in the gentle but firm decision to no longer abandon herself for people who treated her heart carelessly. Grace becomes her compass. Emotional intelligence becomes her armour. Self-restoration becomes her new devotion. A woman who rises elegantly understands that heartbreak is not a failure, it is a revelation. Lessons arrive not to punish her, but to elevate her. Every disappointment shows her where she was dimming her radiance. Every silence reveals what she avoided acknowledging. Every tear helps her flush out illusions she clung to for far too long. Growth occurs not in the chaos of reaction, but in the serenity of acceptance. Healing becomes a sacred return to herself. Rituals of self-care are no longer ornamental, they are restorative. The way she speaks to herself softens. The way she treats her body shifts. The way she upholds boundaries becomes intentional, not defensive. The life she rebuilds begins with the recognition that her worth was never diminished by the way she was treated. It was simply unseen by someone unequipped to value it. Quiet strength defines this transformation. Conversations become clearer, choices become cleaner, energy becomes selective. Emotional availability becomes reserved for relationships grounded in reciprocity and respect. The storm that once shattered her now becomes the reason she glows with a calm, discerning confidence. Heartbreak teaches her that elegance is not fragile. Elegance is resilient. Rising with grace is not weakness, it is mastery. Detachment becomes a compassionate discipline rather than cold withdrawal. Closure becomes something she gives herself, not something she waits to receive. Truth becomes something she honors, not something she negotiates. Rooms feel different when she enters them. Lighter, calmer, more intentional. People sense the shift even if they cannot name it. The softness she carries is no longer a vulnerability to be exploited. It is a choice rooted in self-respect. The clarity she embodies becomes magnetic. The refinement she cultivates becomes unmistakable. Elegant recovery begins the moment heartbreak stops shaping identity and starts revealing inner truth. Quiet reflection uncovers the lessons she once rushed past, allowing wisdom to replace turbulence. A refined woman rebuilds from the inside out, choosing intention over impulse and elegance over emotional reaction. Self-respect forms the foundation of her healing, guiding her toward choices that honor her heart. Detachment strengthens her discernment, creating space for healthier forms of love. Grace blooms through growth, not blame, and through clarity, not chaos. Direction emerges from every disappointment when viewed with emotional intelligence. Peace becomes her power, as boundaries protect what is soft and sacred within. Radiance deepens the moment worth is no longer negotiated, only embodied. Healing softens beautifully when absence is valued as deeply as presence once was. Standards rise naturally as she recognizes that authentic love never demands self-sacrifice. Calmness settles in when chaos is no longer entertained or given access. Heartbreak transforms into elegance the moment self-alignment becomes her priority. A new woman emerges, one shaped by resilience, clarity, and exquisitely restored dignity. Soft resilience begins to bloom when silence becomes a place of restoration rather than loneliness. A higher level of self-awareness awakens as she recognizes that heartbreak did not break her, it revealed the depth of her strength. Elegant transformation unfolds the moment she realizes that heartbreak was not a detour, but a divine redirection toward a life that honors her depth, her intuition, and the quiet brilliance she once overlooked within herself. A new chapter of womanhood awakens as she embraces the truth that rising after heartbreak is less about forgetting the past and more about meeting her future with a clearer mind, a steadier heart, and a level of emotional grace that makes her untouchable in the most dignified way. A profound metamorphosis begins the moment heartbreak forces a woman to stand still long enough to see the truth she once avoided, allowing her to sift through the remnants of disappointment with a level of self-awareness so advanced that it becomes impossible for her to shrink back into the version of herself who tolerated emotional crumbs, inconsistent affection, and the illusion of love that never honored her depth. A breathtaking sense of emotional sovereignty awakens when she recognizes that rising after heartbreak is not about proving anything to the one who hurt her, but about reclaiming her own narrative with such calm determination that every choice she makes becomes an act of self-respect, every boundary becomes an investment in her peace, and every step forward becomes a testament to her refined strength. A beautifully renewed identity forms as she navigates the delicate path between grieving what she hoped for and embracing what she now deserves. A journey marked by intentional solitude, honest introspection, and the soft yet powerful decision to no longer abandon her needs for the sake of keeping a connection alive that was slowly dimming the light of her femininity. A new emotional landscape unfolds when she finally honors the silent wisdom that heartbreak left behind, revealing patterns she once excused, behaviors she once rationalized, and truths she once silenced in the name of loyalty, ultimately guiding her toward a life designed not around attachment, but around alignment, nourishment, and emotional dignity. A refined woman rises with a serenity that confuses those who expected her to crumble, because her healing is not loud or dramatic. It is a quiet, elegant reclamation of her energy that turns every past wound into a stepping stone for deeper wisdom, stronger boundaries, higher standards, and a future where her heart is cherished rather than challenged. An extraordinary form of inner luxury emerges once she realizes that heartbreak did not diminish her value, but simply revealed the spaces within her that needed strengthening, polishing, and redefining, allowing her to step into a version of herself who moves with softer eyes, clearer intentions, selective energy, and a beautifully restored belief that love becomes exquisite only when it meets her at the level of her evolution. A deeper evolution unfolds when heartbreak finally strips away the illusions she once clung to, allowing her to witness the difference between attention and devotion, between desire and compatibility, and between someone who excites her emotions and someone who elevates her life, revealing that her true rise begins not with replacement, but with a profound reconnection to her own inner world. A quiet but commanding strength takes root as she learns to sit with her emotions without collapsing under them, transforming each wave of sadness into an opportunity for clarity, and every moment of loneliness into a gentle reminder that solitude becomes sacred once she stops fearing it and starts recognizing it as the birthplace of emotional rebirth. A beautifully refined chapter begins when she realizes that heartbreak is less about losing someone else and more about rediscovering parts of herself that she neglected, her ambition, her softness, her intuition, her boundaries, and with every rediscovery, she steps further into a life where her heart is no longer shaped by longing but by self-honoring. A rare form of emotional grace emerges as she understands that the end of a relationship does not require rage or resentment. It requires acceptance, discernment, and the unwavering decision to stop forcing a connection that was slowly eroding her worth, choosing instead to move forward with a dignity so serene that it becomes its own form of closure. A powerful renaissance begins within her as she allows grief to cleanse what no longer belongs, making room for a radiant confidence that grows quietly over time. Confidence built not on validation from others, but on the steady realization that she can trust her intuition, honor her standards, and rebuild her life without losing her softness. A stunning transformation becomes undeniable the moment she recognizes that rising after heartbreak is not an act of survival, but an art form, an elegant, deliberate practice of choosing peace over chaos, truth over illusion, reciprocity over fantasy, and the kind of self-love that strengthens her spirit, beautifies her presence, and prepares her for a future aligned with her highest emotional potential. A slow but exquisite awakening begins when heartbreak finally pushes a woman to honor the standards she once compromised, allowing her to rise into a life where emotional reciprocity becomes the minimum. Clarity becomes the baseline, and the love she accepts mirrors the level of maturity and intentionality she has cultivated within herself. A serene form of self-restoration takes shape as she chooses to step back from the noise of old patterns, giving herself the time and emotional stillness to understand why her heart tolerated what her intuition questioned, ultimately guiding her toward a new season where wisdom leads her choices rather than longing. A richer sense of emotional intelligence emerges when she recognizes that not every loss warrants grief, and not every connection deserves a second chance, revealing the profound truth that her ability to walk away with gentleness is a sign of refinement rather than resignation. A breathtaking shift occurs as she begins nurturing her life with the same depth she once poured into relationships that could not hold her, turning her attention toward personal evolution, elegant routines, elevated conversations, and environments that honor her sensitivity rather than exploit it. A quietly powerful confidence rises as she learns to detach from the narrative that heartbreak diminishes her, embracing instead the understanding that heartbreak often acts as a divine recalibration, redirecting her toward a future where her emotional needs are valued as much as her beauty, intelligence, and presence. A luxurious new inner world forms when she chooses to stop explaining her value to those who never recognized it, and instead invests her softness, loyalty, and romantic depth into spaces and relationships where her spirit is nurtured, her voice is respected, and her emotional radiance is cherished without conditions. Share your story in the comments, dear. What helped you rise with elegance after heartbreak? Your insight may softly heal another woman. Join this growing circle of refined, self-respecting women by subscribing to Thriving Ivy 3883, quietly, lovingly, only if this space feels like home. Your presence here truly matters. My sincerest thanks.